Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Disruptors Remarkable Influencers. Today we've got Carlos Reyes, one of the biggest influencers in real estate, and he's going to share how he went from bagging groceries to hanging out with Andy Frisella and Brad Lee. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Steve Trang, sales trainer to some of the top investors in the country, and I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. If you get value out of the show today, please tag a friend below, share this episode right now, that way we can all grow together. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's just talk about your journey into entrepreneurship. How did you get into it?
All right. Well, it never gets old for me to tell my story, right? And I love it because someone new always hears it, and then it impacts and encourages and empowers them. So, my entrepreneur journey started in Mexico, where I was born and where I was raised most of my childhood. And if you're wondering, well, what were you doing, right? My entrepreneurship journey started literally when I was about 5 years old, doing door-to-door, like selling bread, like Mexican bread that, my friend's mom would put together.
What's the difference between Mexican bread and bread?
Oh, man.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. It's a whole different, like, you got, again, I can go into details like, conchas and, empanadas and those, again, totally different. You know what I mean? So she would make them, and myself, my brother, 2 or 3 friends from the neighborhood. One of the guys was her son. We would go, and it was a 50-50 like profit share. Like I would, sell bread, and let's just say I sold it for a few pesos. I would keep half of those earnings, and I would bring back half of those earnings.
So like you're learning about joint venture.
Yeah, early, 5 years old, man. So I remember literally we were watching the Power Rangers. This was around the mid '90s. Watching the Power Rangers, and she kept making bread every time we would come over. He had the only television in the neighborhood.
Oh,
so
okay.
We would all
what
go.
City were you guys in?
Guaymas, Guaymas, Sonora. A lot of people may know a small resort called San Carlos. Oh. Yeah, that's about a 45-hour away. So anyway, I would come over, and then she always made bread. And then one day, as a little boy, I don't even know, like maybe I saw it on television. I don't know where I got this idea from. But I said, what if you make enough bread and we go and sell it and make money, right? But at this point, at that age, I was already seeing people, my kids my age, like sell, gum and other things in Mexico. I don't know if you've ever been to Mexico, but there's truly no middle class there. You're either extremely well off and, you're politically connected and somehow,
the right people.
You know the right people, or you're extremely, extremely poor, which that was our situation, extremely poor, living up in the mountains where, like all the poor folks live. It's reverse over there. It's backwards. It's like if you're really poor and you can't afford to live, you're up in the mountains in a shack. And if you could afford to live, you're down in the city with a home that's made out of brick. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
So that was my first thing, man. My first gig was just like selling bread. I told this lady one day, I said, hey, can you make enough bread? And sure thing, man, that summer we started selling bread, and we made some money.
You were leading these other young kids.
Yeah.
Like it's your idea, and you're just, let's go do this.
I was mostly leading my brother because I came up with the idea, but he was the one going door to door. Like we would literally go to certain neighborhoods, and then the other 2-3 kids would go to other neighborhoods, and then that's how we would make our money.
How were those conversations as a 5-year-old knocking on people's doors?
Man, it was pretty easy because I had a big old basket of bread. So they knew, like, once I knocked, they knew what I was trying to do. I mean, no one's just going to randomly show up with a big old basket of bread,
Yeah. Well, I think what's really cool, and I know like we're talking about poverty here, extreme poverty, but I think one of the things that's really cool when you go to these other countries is you see the kids hustling on the street.
Yeah.
They're selling something, and
it's honorable.
They're learning entrepreneurship. They don't know it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're learning how to hustle for themselves. And you come over here and you go just go to school.
I'll tell you this,
get a job.
brother, you put one of those people, like one of those, like grit, full of grit individuals into this country, and they're going to do something with their lives. And that's exactly, circling into my story. That's why my mother did what she did, the way that, my mother actually left my father. It wasn't like one of those, like one night stand type of deals, or no, my mother left my father. They were married. and she left him because he would come home. He was working at the time for the federales, like he was a cop or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he would come home and all, drunk and coked out. And he would
Federales
is
coked out. He was a federale
exactly.
and he was coked out.
Right. I'm not saying that they're all like that, but what I'm saying is he definitely was like that. And my mom doesn't like me to say this about my father, but I tell her that when you choose to put yourself out there, you're naked to the world. I'm like, I'm not going to hold anything back, because if I do, then that's something that I have to remember not to say, So yeah, he would come home, and one day he came home and I was 2-3 years old. And, he was very enraged. He thought he was delusional, come home full drugged out, put my mother and myself against the wall and literally started shooting at us. Like, I don't know, just to, I don't think he was trying to kill us, but he was, I don't know whatever sick game he was playing.
Thought it was funny. It was some sick prank.
Exactly. So after that, my mother said, you know what, I'm going to take my children out of here. Like, I'm going to leave this man. Right. And we'll get to it. He came back around later when I was back in 2012, actually, once I had my first daughter. He kind of came back into my life after being, MIA for 17, 20 years. But so we left, and we were already in a poor city, and we left to a city that was even more poor, right? Like way more poor. This was Guaymas. We went from Hermosillo to Guaymas. And Guaymas was like a little tiny town, like a little port. It's a little piece of land surrounded by a bunch of sea, like beaches, right? And we went there, and we went to live with my grandma and my grandfather. My grandfather had built the house, like I said, in the mountains, and the house literally. And I've showed pictures on my story and presentations. The house was literally made out of like a dirt foundation, like dirt floor, plywood structure, plywood and 4x4s, right? Plywood and wood. And then a laminate roof, that's how it was. We had no running water, no electricity. It was 350 square feet. And on one side of the house, my grandma and my grandpa would sleep. And on the other side, in twin beds, right? My mother would sleep in her bed, and then me and my brother would share a bed. That was like most of my childhood. It's hard to remember. It's always difficult for me to go back in there and kind of relive some of those scenarios and emotions, Yeah. But it's something that I've learned to heal from. And that's why, I didn't start telling my story until I was fully healed emotionally and mentally from the type of poverty and upbringing that I lived in. And I'll give people out there just a small like glance of what it was like. We didn't have running water, so there would be a man in a truck with a huge container like in the back of his truck with the hose, literally. That's how we would get our water. We had these 3 big old blue containers, and he would come around once a week. We would buy water from him, put it in those buckets, and we would use that to shower and, wash clothes and do all kinds of other stuff.
It's nuts.
And when it comes to the electricity part, my grandmother would have these gas lamps. Have you ever seen the flame inside a glass? And then it's literally gas.
Yeah.
Right? It's like oil based. That was our childhood, man.
Yeah.
So
how'd you go from that to here, to coming to the United States?
So one day, and my mother, she definitely fulfilled her purpose, and I tell her that all the time now, because my mother doesn't speak English to this day. My mother does have a retirement plan. I am her retirement plan, right? And I tell her that all the time, like, Mom, like, look what you've done. If it wasn't for your courage, if it wasn't for your vision, if it wasn't for the sacrifices you made, I would not be, you changed. Like, people may think like, wow, Carlos, he's changing the financial trajectory of his family. But it started with my mother.
Yeah, it doesn't happen without her.
My mother made a decision one day, because she was making about $25, $30 a week in Mexico, cleaning resort rooms out of hotels. And she said she had that hard talk with me, because I was the oldest, and my grandma, and said, hey, I'm going to try to go to the United States and see if I can make something happen for my children. And her entire family thought she was crazy. Yeah, right. Good luck, right? What are you doing? Like, are you crazy? No one has ever done it at this point. Like, no one has ever tried. So she was the first pioneer in my family to live. Like, a woman, by the way, right? A woman, not. She had about three, four brothers. None of them ever did it. She chose to do this. Sure thing. She went to California. She went to California first, and she worked out in the fields, and she got amnesty. She got her paperwork, immigration status through amnesty, working the fields. 2 years later, man, this was one of the two of the hardest years of my life. I'm a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and I'm sleeping with her picture under my pillow, and I'm wondering why did my mom leave? There's nothing that my grandfather.
Oh, so she left first.
Yeah.
And you were on your own. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
She left me and my brother unintentionally abandoned us.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that my grandmother and my grandfather could say to me as a child that would comfort me.
You can't explain that to a kid.
And the good thing is, the one kid that had a phone, my mother would call on Fridays, 4 or 5 p.m. I remember this vividly, right? Going over to that friend's house and waiting for my mother to call from the United States, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she would also send money where she could, enough money for us to have food and clothes, So, that was very honorable of her. Well, anyway, 2 years later, she comes back and she takes my brother, she takes me, and her by herself with no help she goes through a sewer canal, like a sewer system, the canal, it's like the canals that go down in the sewers down there, right? Mm-hmm. She had my brother in her left hand and she had me at this, I can walk. So I'm going. She's getting us through this canal in San Isidro, which is right next to Tijuana, this border. And we got caught, we got thrown out. My aunt lived in TJ at the time, Tijuana. So we went and stayed there for 2 days. 2 days. I even have pictures of it. And then she's like, cause she didn't give up. She's like, oh man, we didn't come this far just to come this far, right? Mm-hmm. She's like, we're going to do this again. We did it again. We actually made it. We did not get caught this time. We went to Escondido, California, and I attended the 3rd and 4th grade there, and that was it. By the time that summer of between the 4th and the 5th grade came around, we were living under a tree for a few days. And then financially, we just did not make it. So we had to pack every little belongings that we had at the time and back to Mexico. And
you went back.
That was a really hard.
Back to your grandparents?
All the way back. After all that sacrifice, after all those days and nights of crying and the trauma and the emotional trauma, we had to go back. My mother did not make it. Single mom, no English, working the fields, couldn't afford. It's very expensive in California.
Yeah.
So we went back, and this time she had a plan. At this point, I'm in the 5th grade, and she says, hey, I got a plan. She's like, I have some friends in Phoenix, Arizona, and they told me that it's a lot more affordable there. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to work bagging groceries, right? And I'm going to go back to the resort and clean rooms.
In 5th grade? No.
5th grade. 5th grade, 6th grade. I don't know if you've ever seen my little bag.
I've seen it. I didn't know you were in 5th grade.
Yeah, I was bagging. Well, how old do you think I was? I was bagging
13, 14, 15?
Absolutely not. I'm bagging groceries, and man, at this point now, I know a little English. I know English pretty well. So I start to make more money than she does. I'm making $10 to $12 a day. She's still making her $30 a week. So she says, hey, this is the plan. She's like, I'm going to use my earnings, which is her earnings, to give us the essentials in life, the food and the clothing and all that. And then we're going to use your money, which I was making more money than her. We're going to save that. I'm going to get back on a bus, go to Phoenix, Arizona. And that's exactly what she did about a year and a half later. Now she leaves for another year and a half. And we're like, oh man, here we go again. Right. Mm-hmm. But this time she does it right. She comes over and she says, hey, I'm taking you first. I'm her oldest. I'm taking you first. I'm leaving your brother. Right. And she takes me first. She pays a human smuggler $25, mm-hmm. A coyote, in Nogales, Sonora. And she literally just says, hey, listen to this man. I'm going to be on the other side of this fence. Listen to him. Whatever he tells you to do it, because he's trying to get you to me. And she's like, I'm going to be waiting for you at the McDonald's in Nogales, Arizona. Gives this guy the $25. I remember it was nighttime. $25 is what got me in this country.
Like the 5,000 or whatever.
$25 is what got me in this country. Right? So it was a good investment on her behalf. Yeah. So at this point, I'm in. It's the summer between 6th and 7th grade, right? I don't even know how old I was, but I follow this man's directions. When he told me to duck, I ducked. When he told me to jump, I jumped. When he told me to run, I ran. And when he told me to jump through the hole in the fence, I jumped through the hole in the fence. And then I met my mother on the other side of Nogales, of the border. She brought us up. She started my paperwork process in 1997. And it was it was over a decade. Like, it took me so long to become a citizen of this country. I'm not born here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not born here. So, I became a citizen, brother, in 2012, and I started my entrepreneur journey in America in 2014.
Man, okay. So I feel like that part could be a movie.
Yeah.
So how'd you go from now? Okay, so now you're here. Then did you just you were good in school, or you were still hustling?
I was a hustler. So, I worked in the corporate world for a little while, and I learned, I developed a lot of skills there. Management, leadership. This is what a lot of people don't know, right? KPIs, growth, month to date, like growth, net profitability. I learned so much. Corporate America was my college, right? Like, I learned how to hire. Like, at some point I was interviewing like 1,000 people a month. I learned how to hire. I learned how to train. I learned how to develop. I learned how to create leaders. I learned how to delegate responsibilities. I learned all that. I learned a lot in corporate America, and it taught me enough to bring a lot of that over and create our companies. Our organization. Standard operating procedures, hiring a CFO, hiring a COO, putting all these parameters in place. My company offers health insurance now, like, I don't know if you knew that.
I did not.
We offer health insurance. We offer 401k. We offer an IRA. We match. We pay 80% of the health insurance for all our employees. I learned all that in corporate America, right?
Yeah. So let's take a step back. So you're growing up. Real estate was not your first business, or was that your first hustle?
No. So I tried a lot of other things. I tried flipping cars. I've tried flipping clothes.
Weren't you flipping
medical
diabetic strips?
Medical strips. Yeah. We have it's called National Medical Surplus. Literally, it has an office in our building downstairs.
Oh, it's still up and running.
Brother, when I was doing that alone, I grossed 2.3 mil when I was doing that alone. I brought Sal in as a partner, and the last 2 years, we've been between $6.3 and $6.7 million in gross revenue produced with a 37% net profitability.
So for a National Medical Surplus.
Absolutely.
That's
and
amazing.
It's not just strips, it's all kinds of stuff, reservoirs, like, meters, like anything that has to do with diabetes, right? I started that business after real estate when I had enough money to do it. I started that business in 2016, 2 years after I started real estate.
Gotcha.
So it's still flourishing, and we're very blessed to have that business.
Yeah. I'll bet it was really easy when you got into real estate. Didn't struggle at all.
Man. So when I got into real estate in 2014, right? And this is what I want a lot of people to understand. Real estate provided literally, real estate was the catalyst to everything we have now. Sal and I have 31 companies now across the board. 31, software, medical, marketing, education, real estate, solar. We have so many different businesses. None of that happens without real estate. You know what I mean? We did what a lot of people aren't willing to do in real estate. We took massive amounts of risk, right? We dumped 95, 97% of our earnings for the first 3 to 5 years back into marketing and systems, processes, hiring, right? We weren't like, ooh, let me pay myself. We were like, hey man, I can survive off this. Let's just do that. Let's put it all back in. Let's grow this thing. We just kept feeding that fire. And we started making so much money. We became so liquid that we started to buy other companies, or we started to build other companies. And, I'll give you an example, right? Our digital marketing agency, we literally took a guy that was working with Google for 100 and something thousand a year, said, hey man, you want to become a partner, 33.33%, we'll get everything up off the ground. And, that's one thing that, thank God, that I've been very blessed with is I have an eye for talent, right? When I'm going to launch a new venture, I partner up with the right person.
Oh, that's huge.
So
that's something that's a hack that most people don't understand.
Yes.
Like how much that saves.
Absolutely.
Saves you time, saves you money.
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah. I partner up with the right expert, right? And we make it work and we make it grow. So real estate did provide the freedom, everything. It's the catalyst, and that is our baby. Like forever, real estate will always be like our number one priority. We always said we're right now we're on the road to 100 million, right? We call it to 100 million in the next three years is our goal. We have a hard goal. Well, we want our softwares that we have developed over these past 3 years. We just launched Prospect X. We just launched a Catify, which you'll probably be interested because it's almost like what Brad has, Lightspeed Virtual Training. It's literally like your own university, digital university, like Disruptors University, and like you get to stream like Zoom in there. You get to have them. You get to have your courses in there. You get to have your accountability, all that. Like it's something. It's taken us 3 years to build, and we want to provide that to all influencers, across all sectors, right?
So the goal 100 million is 100 million gross revenue.
Gross revenue produced from all the companies.
From all the companies.
Yep. And then we're going to take all that money and do what? What are we going to buy with all that money? We're going to buy more real estate.
Yeah.
So that's our goal. Our tech companies, even our real estate company fed our tech and all these other companies. Now those industries are going to feed our real estate company.
Yeah, that's powerful. So one of the things that not everybody knows, some people know, but one of the things that really helped me launch Real Estate Disruptors was you and Sal coming onto the show, right? You guys were guests.
That's amazing.
You guys are episode number 2.
Yeah.
And that's still one of our most viewed episodes. So I thank you very much.
What year was that?
That was 3 years ago. That was 3 years ago in May. So 3 years in a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know what? I will say this, and I tell people this all the time. Our community in Phoenix is different. Our community in Phoenix, man, this is the guru capital of the world, right? And we used to say things like, we used to think of the word guru being a bad word, right? Mm-hmm. Because, the perspective we had about gurus was they only educate, they don't really do the business, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
now look at all the gurus now. They all do the business.
They all do business.
And they educate, right? Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. And I feel like, this might be the guru capital of the world with you guys and us and Sean Terry and Cody Sperber. I mean, the list goes on. Mm-hmm. Dean Graziosi's here, right? Yeah. Rich Dad Poor Dad's here, right? The list goes on and on and on. But guess what? There's a mutual respect and there's like a code of service.
Absolutely.
There's a code of service where we'll get into freedom. I just had some of the top gurus in the country speak at this event that we threw, right? 758 people, and we couldn't fit 1,000. They're like 750, hard stop, right? So they all spoke, and man, none of them charged me a dime, brother. Like we took care of their flights and stuff like that, but none of them charged me a dime. And I told every single one of them, I said, hey, I love you guys. Thank you for being here for us. Anything you need from us, we're there, and that's what I love about this specific community. Yeah.
Well, so that was the next thing I was going to talk about because, there's been no major events.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we were I was blessed to be at the Suns game a couple nights ago. And that, my friend was telling me, like, that is actually the biggest audience because
17,000. I was there.
Oh, you were there?
I was there with Alex.
Yeah. And they were saying because every other state, is pretty much
17,000 people were at Game 5.
But before that, there was the All-In event.
Yep.
And it was like, you're talking about here's how many people you're going to have. It's how can you possibly do that?
Wait, did I share that with you?
Well, you were telling me about it. I was like, well, come on, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that. Talk about this, because you're putting yourself out there to be torn down, ripped apart. Like I've had events with 20 people.
And then you get backlash.
And I get backlash for 20 people. You went harder than that.
Well, remember what I told you earlier about we have this huge tolerance for risk?
Yeah.
We have such a high tolerance for risk, brother, because Sal and I, we're not afraid to lose it all. Because why? We come from nothing.
Well, and you could do it again.
And we can do it again a lot quicker, right? A lot
quicker.
So Sal comes from Iraq. He's a refugee. He was persecuted by Muslims there. Not all Muslims aren't bad. I'm just saying, he was a Christian. He was a Catholic.
Christian in Iraq.
Exactly. That's a very tough thing to be. So we both have this crazy tolerance for risk, and I'm also what you call a delusional optimist. I literally spoke that into existence, man. If you look at our ad, our ad said this is what I intended, and this is not an ego play or anything like that. I just kept believing the fact that we're gonna have the biggest, baddest real estate event of the year. Like my energy just kept doing that, right? And man, I mean, I saw you there on Saturday. I was like, man, I wish you would have been here Friday. And obviously that was round one. Like, we got to get you on that stage too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's round one. My next one's going to have 1,000.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, mark my words, my next event in September, Freedom, will have over 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Guess what? We only spent $12,500 on marketing. We didn't even get to spend the $50,000 that I projected to spend because of Facebook limitations.
Their advertising, who knows what's going on with their advertising? It's always changing.
So we had 750 some people, and you know what? We don't operate in fear, man. Like, we don't. And this isn't like, we're very respectful of like everybody's, perspectives and opinions and however they choose to live their lives, right? We don't operate like that, and I don't think we ever will. So, it was one of the most beautiful. It was definitely some kind of like a punch. It was like, all right, we're back. Things are opening up.
Yeah. Well,
right?
That was the first part of opening, right? So to normalize it for everybody else, because I walked in, I was like, wow, this place is jam packed.
There was a sea of people. I remember. Yeah.
So another thing I want to talk about is, obviously, you started off in real estate, right? Like, that's kind of our Instagram profiles. That's what we're talking about: real estate. And then there was a slight change. I want to say about a year and a half ago.
Not my Instagram profile. We'll get into that.
Okay. So there was a change about a year and a half ago, right? Where you started putting more images, cartoons, but it wasn't just real estate. It wasn't how to do deals. It wasn't how to do your first deal. It was more about general business principles,
mindset, spirituality, life principles.
So I want you
absolutely.
to talk about why you pivoted that direction.
I never wanted to put myself in a box. I never, ever wanted to put myself in a box. And I honestly think real estate content is extremely boring. I can sit there and tell you how to close a deal, and I can sit there and teach you how to market. Brother, that's the stuff that I know. I know that, just like I know that I got to brush my teeth every day. That stuff is so easy to me now, right?
It's basic.
It's not, it's super, right? And it's like, for me, I never wanted to put myself in a box, and it wasn't an ego play. It wasn't any type of that. It was like, I just want to be able to really impact and reach more people, man. I got people that come up to me at the Suns game. This 24-year-old kid, he's like, hey, brother, man, I love your stuff. You inspire me. My father came here illegally, and now we have a landscaping business. How could I ever reach that guy if I was just, stuck in real estate, right?
Right.
I don't know if you went. We were at the Hero event in Florida. I know Jamil and Pace were there. A server of that resort came up to me, some white Ukrainian lady. Oh my God, I love your stuff. This is a server who has nothing to do with real estate. And she comes up to me, and, we take a picture, and it's just like, that would never happen if I wasn't like, brother, I want to be able to reach. How can I really reach millions of people if I'm going to put myself in this small box? You know what I mean? I really want to share with the world, like, my experiences in life, because real estate is just a vehicle. It was just a vehicle to get from broke to, millions, right? That was just a vehicle, but the foundation wasn't that. The foundation was here and here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was the mindset. And
the mindset and the spirituality.
And I think, I don't want to belittle, like the marketing and sales and whatever stuff. Like, I think that stuff's important, right?
Extremely.
And for a lot of people, like, how to get that first deal, like, they're always asking that question. But I think it might be the wrong question. And it's the mindset component. Because I was actually on a call with a good buddy of mine. And we're like, what is your biggest struggle? I was like, I don't know how to fix people to help them get their first deal. I can tell you exactly how this list, this tool, this program, this conversation, here's what you say. I can lay the roadmap. But until you believe you can do it, it's all irrelevant.
Yep. And that's one of my goals. My goal is to liberate as many people as I can from their own personal limitations, because now I don't have any personal limitations. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not afraid of anything, I'm not. And it took me decades to make that shift. where like I became comfortable. I became comfortable. I became fearful. I became a skeptic. You know what I mean? I didn't want to bet on myself, right? So I'm like, you know what? I don't want people to go through this. I went through this for too long, and a lot of people suffered because of it.
And they're still stuck there.
And a lot of people are now, right? Like I actually made a post yesterday. I said that 86% of people, I said 86% of people are living in pain. Pain from their own personal beliefs, pain from a bad relationship, living in a bad, toxic
Trauma
relationship.
growing up, yeah.
Trauma growing up. I literally made this post yesterday, and I really do believe that 86% of people are living in that type of environment or that type of stage or state in their lives, and they don't do anything to heal it. You know what they do? They numb themselves. See, and I'm telling you this because I used to do this. Every weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm at the club drinking, right? I'm at the club womanizing, I was broken, man. I had I didn't become who I'm becoming now because I'll never really arrive. Like I'll never arrive. And that's what gets me so excited is because I can be 90 years old one day and I'll still be learning something. You know what I mean? I'll be learning something from the new kids, right?
Right.
So I'll never arrive, but I'll say this. In order for me to really ascend, I had to heal all that childhood trauma. I had to heal all that teenage trauma, that young adulthood trauma. The fact that it took me so long to marry my wife was because I was disconnected. I was broken. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And what happens is if you don't fix those issues, you will never reach your highest potential, and you will never be the best father you can be. You'll never be the best husband you can be. You'll never be the best leader you can be, the best son you can be, the best brother you can be, if you don't get rid of that gunk, that junk, that baggage. So at some point, everyone has to go inside to heal. Everyone. And that's one of my goals in life, man, is to try to bring awareness to that,
Well, and I know like you're not just saying it. Like I know because I've had conversations with you, right? Like you've had to like, hey, look, I need to go take care of this. I've got this emergency, and it's just someone that's close to you.
Oh, you saw, that was right? I was supposed to be on this show a few weeks ago. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, hey, look, I got someone that's going through something, and I need to help him.
Absolutely,
get through this.
Absolutely.
So this is not just lip service.
Absolutely. No, never. Who would I be? Who would I be? Because ultimately, at the end of the night, what matters is me, what I think of myself and how I feel about myself. Not what anybody, right? I told one of my good friends, Brian Ponciano, yesterday came by and we had some very high level conversations, man, about consciousness, emotional intelligence. And I said, hey, brother, you know what? There's true freedom in really not caring what people think about you. Really. Yeah. And I said,
and he's the best at that.
The only, for sure, right? He came in some flip flops and a tank top. So the only opinions that matter to me now, my wife's, my children, my baby girls, my mother's, my business partners. Let me tell you why. My wife, does she think I'm a good husband?
Yeah.
Right. If I'm a good husband, that might mean that I'm a good human being. My children, do they think I'm a good father? I'm a good daddy. I'm present. I'm loving. I'm supporting. Right. My business, my mother, does she think I'm a good son? And that I'm, the seeds that she's sowed at one point, she's reaping now the benefits, right? My business partners, do they think that I'm a honorable, trustworthy business partner? Outside of those opinions or perspectives, nothing else really affects me.
Oh, you can't let those other things hold you back.
No.
So I'm glad you're talking about this. So how would someone go about healing, right? Like they don't recognize it. They don't necessarily recognize they've got the pain.
Yes.
But if they got the pain, like
I want to read this to you when you're done. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's basically how do you start that process of healing?
Yes. All right. So first and foremost, I'm going to read this, right? I said, this is something I posted 10 hours ago. I said, 86% of today's society is living in pain, past trauma, living in the past. Brother, some of my own family lives in the past.
Oh.
Some of my own family cannot detach themselves from their past.
Yeah.
And if you can't detach yourself from your past, then you're never going to truly enjoy the present. And that's all we have, right? Because the future, whatever you may think you're going to do, those are just plans, those are just plans that you have.
Or dreams.
Right. Exactly. Right. Whatever you think you're going to do. And whatever you already did, it's already behind you. Right. All we really have right now is like literally this moment, like you and I, outside of this, nothing is real. This is the reality that we have right now. Right. So I said, past trauma, living in the past, toxic relationships, negative friends, anxiety, depression, pain, and nothing changes. Why? Instead of healing, we choose to numb it. I said, numb it with entertainment, drugs, sex, alcohol, just to name a few temporary relievers, right? I said, heal, inside out, heal, right? So at some point, man, we have to dig back in there. It's kind of like peeling an onion, layer by layer by layer, right? You start with the now, and you start working your way back, reverse engineering. People, events, circumstances, people, that might have hurt you, cut you, right? Things that happened in your past.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't liberate yourself from those emotions, it becomes trapped energy. And trapped energy becomes anxiety and stress and depression. You see?
Yeah, that's how they show up.
Exactly. Trapped energy, right? Literally, you have to move that. You have to move that energy, and that's what emotion is. It's literally, emotion is like energy in motion. How can we move that energy? You have to get rid of it, man. You have to allow yourself to feel. A lot of us fight it. We're like, I'm not gonna feel that. I don't like where I was when I felt that. You know what? Be strong enough to know that you're not your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. You're not your feelings. You're not, you're literally just a soul. Like, we're light inside of a meat sack, a body. And you have to allow yourself, you know what? I allow myself to feel. I allow myself to heal. I allow myself to feel. I allow myself to heal. You got to start peeling the layer of that onion, piece by piece by piece, until you completely liberate yourself, right?
So that's what they need to do. How would someone start doing that?
You have to, first and foremost, start asking the right questions. You got to start asking the right questions. That's the only way that you can direct the focus of the mind. You start asking the right questions. It's like you just said, how can I begin to do that? Who can I talk to do that? Who do I hire to help me with this? Yeah. You see, right? That's how it started for me. 2017, I had a complete mental breakdown. 3 years after we started our business. We went so hard, right? That I neglected everything, neglected health, neglected hobbies, neglected friends, neglected sleep, neglected everything, neglected my family, neglected everything for 3 years. Complete break. I didn't know what anxiety was till 2017. Labor Day weekend of 2017, I had 2 panic attacks. And guess what? Haven't had none since, never had none before, right? So I came down with full-blown anxiety, and then, depression is anxiety's ugly cousin. That anxiety turned into depression. And I became a vegetable. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. You can ask my wife. And then they took me to a psychiatrist, and they gave me what they give me what they always give people. Pills.
Yeah.
To what?
To numb.
To numb it. Klonopin, Paxil, right? That's what I was on. And for people out there listening, they know, like, these are real pills, right? SSRI, and then whatever the other one is. Literally, like, one of them was a mood enhancer, right? That's the Paxil. That's a serotonin inhibitor. It produces more serotonin in the brain, so I can feel a little better and not be depressed, right? And then the Klonopin was to numb the anxiety. See, but this is what people don't understand: diseases and behavior. Anxiety is a mental condition. Depression is a mental condition. Those are symptoms of what needs to be dealt with, right? Normally, it goes in this, and this is going to be very valuable to some people out there, because a lot of people out there listen to this show, they're entrepreneurs. And the one thing entrepreneurs have a lot of is what? Stress. Stress leads to anxiety, and then anxiety leads to depression.
Yeah.
So, brother, it all goes back to stress. All of it. If you don't start, like, taking care of yourself through now, like, I'm probably 30 pounds lighter than the last time you saw me. You know what I mean? Because if you don't start taking care of your body through proper nutrition, which is very difficult to do. I had a food addiction up until about 3 months ago. Okay. Exercise, right? Self-care things like meditation, massages, floating on sensory deprivation tanks, grounding, putting your feet on the ground, catching sun. If you don't start taking care of yourself, you're going to end up, it's inevitable. You're going to end up with anxiety and depression, and then it's going to be a really, really dark hole. So,
and all the stuff that you're working hard for is meaningless.
no, it means nothing. You
you
can't
don't
even
have-
enjoy them. You can't enjoy the fruits of your labor. You can't enjoy your family. You can't enjoy your family enjoying the fruits of your labor. It becomes a vicious cycle,
Right.
and you just keep putting yourself down.
Yeah, what's the point at that point? All right, so I want to talk about your growth now, right? I mean, you got tons and tons of followers and so on. And one of the things that we're really trying to help people that are coming onto the show or watching the show is how do they grow their influence? So I know that you've had this exciting journey along the way. So I want to ask you two questions.
Yep.
A, how do you grow your audience? And B, what do you not do to make sure
I
you
can
don't
tell you
screw-
right now. First and foremost, power versus force. I was forceful. The first 2-3 years, I was in this like status stage for about a year where I just forced myself on people. Literally those are the top dogs? No, I'm the top dog. Right? Look at me. Look at him. Look at what I drive. Look at the money I make. Look at what they do. Look at how many deals I do a month. Look at what they do. That's force. Power is like setting intentions and releasing all expectations. And the intention for me was, you know what? Once I started becoming the person I am right now and the person I'm still becoming, right? I just said, you know what? I'm just going to provide people with value. I'm going to provide people with real, life-changing, impactful value.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm going to try to reach as many people as I can, but in a healthy way. If it doesn't disturb my peace of mind, that's it. Now, I'm not willing to swap one thing for the other. You know what I mean? So for me, it was teaching people every single day through social media. Across, I do about 300 pieces of content across all social media platforms right now. My goal is to be where Chris Crone is, 500 pieces of content across all channels, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever, right? So value, brother, provide them information, tools, things that can actually make a little bit of a tweak in their lives, and they'll just keep coming back for more. So that's what it really comes down to, man, is like the content that you create.
So it sounds like there's an element of a quiet confidence, right? I'm going to do
Power.
Right? I'm going to do good work.
Power. Yeah. And build it and what? Build it and they will come, right? And I'll tell you what's really helped me the most over these past 2 years. When I saw the game really started to change for me, actually living in your truth and being an example and living through demonstration. Like, I don't just talk about trying to be a good father. I make it a priority. That's what people don't understand about my life is I go way harder in my private life with my wife and my kids and my mother than I do in my social public life. I care more about what my private life, where my private life is, than where my public life is. I don't give a crap about all that.
Yeah.
This is what grounds me. My family, that's what grounds me.
It's your purpose.
This stuff can all go away, and I don't even care if it does. That's the thing. When you no longer care, it's easy to continue to really grow.
It's what's the word? It's not stressful. It's just
you actually start to enjoy it a little bit.
Right. You get to do what you want.
Again, what do I say? Set the intention and release all the expectations. You know what I mean? Do what you can with what you have, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what really started to work for me.
So you mentioned, 300 pieces of content, trying to get to 500.
Yeah.
For some people, that sounds astronomical. So let's just say you wanted to have an intention to put out 5 to 10 pieces of content every day.
Okay.
How would someone go about doing that?
First and foremost, just like I said, hey, what do you have to offer to the world? Everyone has something to offer. Experience, wisdom, some type of unique special skill, right? Like look at like you and Max, you guys started with a particular lane, right? Which is like sales and you guys, again, everyone has something to offer. Everyone, right? So start there. Don't try to be somebody you're not. I'm not Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't even follow Gary V. I don't, because that's the one thing. If you look at who I follow, I love Grant Cardone and he follows me. I don't follow Grant Cardone. I got to follow him back. And Elena Cardone, I don't follow Elena Cardone, right? And I don't follow a lot of these guys for a reason. I don't follow Tony Robbins. And the people that I look up to are Tony Robbins, Ed Mylett, and Andy Frisella, right? I follow Andy and I follow Ed. I don't even follow Tony, right? I don't want to be like anybody else. And guess what? I'll be 100% with you. I can never be them in their own way, and they can never be me.
Yeah.
I have my own people that resonate with me. You know, I have my own avatar. I have my own, people that resonate with my pain and my upbringing and, where I am today. I have they can't even touch my world. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know that. They can't even touch my world. I'm Hispanic. I'm a Mexican from Mexico. You know what I mean? I don't want to be just like everybody else. That's a whole, brother, if I start to compete with the Andys and the Eds, I'm going to lose. Mm-hmm. I don't want to, I don't care. No one can compete in my realm, which is like my lane, which is like, I'm a minority. I'm a Mexican, and they can't touch that. None of those guys can touch that.
So let's talk about force. How do you define force, and what should they not do in that direction?
Force is something that I did in 2019. I did, and I regret this, and I will publicly say this. I did with Instagram in particular, not YouTube, not Facebook, none of that. With Instagram in particular, I at that time the algorithm was different. The algorithm, if you got people there, the algorithm would show more than 5 to 10% of impressions to the following that you had. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna gain some followers. So what did I do? I joined a Jamie Foxx campaign. It's called a giveaway campaign. Jamie Foxx, Kevin Hart, Jake Paul, and Floyd Mayweather. That's it. 4 campaigns, right? Mm-hmm. And that brought me like, I had an organic like 270,000 organic followers already. And that brought me like 200,000 more followers, or maybe even a little more, maybe 300, right? Mm-hmm. I regret that. I paid a lot of money for that. The algorithm changed on me. I was trying to force followers to follow me, right? Mm-hmm. Through an incentive. Once the algorithm changed on me, guess what? My engagement went like at the gutter, right?
Right.
And then I actually paid a guy. I paid him $5,500 to go into my Instagram and remove 1,000 people that were inactive people that weren't engaging with me. I paid him to do that to get my engagement back up. So you see, I've messed around. Like I have exploded my Instagram. I have ruined my Instagram, and then now I'm like bringing it back up. So it's been a journey, man. So that's force.
Okay, so don't do a giveaway campaign.
Don't do any of that.
Yeah.
Like put out content out there that can move people. And man, I'll tell you what, 1,000 raving fans is more powerful than 100,000 wishy-washy, lukewarm people following you, for sure.
And I think on that point, 1,000 raving fans is huge. But if you have 100,000 followers and they're not fans of yours, the other 1,000 fans actually won't see your content because of the algorithm.
Because of the algorithm. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So you want to have an engaged audience, not a lot of followers.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to think about one message. I mean, I think you've had so many great messages here. But one thing you want to leave the listeners with, guys, if you got value today, please like, subscribe, share, comment. We can reach more people. Carlos can get his message about healing, which I think it's definitely something that no one talks about. I think it's a huge, important piece. So what are your last thoughts?
I like to take these deep breaths because I really like to, be conscious of the advice that I give, right? I believe that we have to focus on, we can never serve other people unless we truly go inside and, get rid of the stuff that weighs us down, right? And again, my goal for everybody, like my primary goal for anybody out there is to become a productive member of society, to become, great fathers, great husbands, great sons, great wives, great sisters. Man, like there's no price tag on that, And I'll tell you what, a lot of people have this backwards, right? They attach their identity to things and people
or jobs
and businesses, right? Do not ever do that because you're setting yourself up for a huge fall. If something happens to the relationship that you're attaching your identity to, what happens? You become a mess. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people never get out of that hole. If you attach yourself to the Lamborghini that you just bought, like, hey, look at me. Like, don't be the guy in front of the car. Like, be the guy behind the car that no one even sees. Like, like, whose car is that?
Right.
Oh, that guy? What does he do? You see, right? It's different. Don't attach yourself to any of these things. And And that's the thing, man. Like, find your true self. Find your true self. Don't attach yourself to any of these things, and work on becoming the best version of yourself. And I live that. Like, I paid $144,000 last year in personal coaching, nutrition, 144 to the T. I just did my taxes. So personal coaching, masterminds, events, you know, like nutritionist, working out, you know, like all that, you know what I mean? Like at one point last year, I had 3 different personal development coaches at the same time. You know what I mean? And guess what? The other thing, this is how you know that I'm trying to really set up my next generation, is I hired one of my coaches that I was paying. This one coach, I was paying her $5,000 for just me. I paid her another $5,000. So now I'm paying $10,000 to one of the 3 coaches. All right. Now I'm paying her $10,000 to coach me and coach who else? My 3rd grader, 2 sessions a week, and my wife, 2 sessions a week. And my 3rd grader and my wife now they're unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Because why? As a father, as a husband, as a man, right? As a man, I said, I'm not going to continue to level up and level up and level up my emotional intelligence and level up my, you know, my mental growth and capacity and leave my family down there. What kind of a man would I be? So then I started spending money on their personal development.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, that's a great point, because I will invest in everyone at my company. They need coaching. Hey, you know, what is it? All right, write a check, go do it. But I never did that.
I invest into my family.
That's awesome. That's
for sure.
Brilliant. And it's one of those things, right? Like, you know these things, but you never think to look at it through a different perspective. So I love that.
Well, think about this for a second. What are we doing all this for? We say our families, right? And our wives, right? But then all this that we're doing is in vain if you don't program them and give them the right tools, the tools we didn't have growing up.
Right.
Then how are they going to take over and actually take I don't know, God willing, my 9-figure business, you know, by the time I'm 40 something or whatever, how are they going to take that 9-figure business and create even a bigger business out of it? You know, that's the whole goal, man. The whole goal is to pass all this down into them, and then they can do a lot better than we did.
Yeah, that's powerful. I learned something big. How can someone get a hold of you?
Carlos Reyes on Instagram. Carlos Reyes on Instagram. I'm very responsive. I remember when I was coming into the real estate game, I had 1 or 2 people out of thousands that I reached out to that gave me the time of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So I always, I gave my word. Like, I committed to never being that person. No matter where you are in life, I will always give you a piece of advice that's going to allow you to take that next step. So Carlos Reyes on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother.
Appreciate it. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for watching.